topic is the lecture series is mechanics of machines, and today we are going to do the introduction part of it, and later on one starting topic of the subject. So the subject is mechanics of machines. So since it is mechanics of machines, firstly it is important to know what is a machine. Here I have explained it. A machine is a device which receives energy in some available form and utilizes it to do some particular type of work. For example, sewing machine, automobile engine, pump, electric motor, printing machines, workshop machines. There are so many today in use. And so if you think about a machine is like, for example, if you are doing a business, what you do there is you give some money to the business, you input some money to the business and expect more from the business as a profit. Likewise, in a machine, you give something to the machine in the form of energy, and you are expecting more than what you gave. Like in a business, in a machine, in a form of work. That is how it is. So machine is something that you give the energy and get more work out of it. Because if you are not getting more what you give in return, then it is useless. Because the basic idea is to make your everyday task more easier, to lessen your energy, spending of energy to get more work. That is the idea. So when it comes to machines, there are two things. One is how the machine works, and then the parts of the machine. So if we talk about this, the first part is mechanics or mechanisms, how the machine is working, the theory behind the machine, the working of the machine. And then the second part is the machine parts. We call it machine elements. So in this subject, we have these two parts. One is the mechanics or mechanisms of the machine, as well as the machine elements of the machine. Elements means the gear wheel. When you are talking about a machine, we have gear wheels, the pulleys, and all these, the axles. All these are machine bearings. All these are machine elements. So to complete the knowledge about machines, you should learn both how the machine is working, as well as what are the parts connected with these machines. So the subject mechanics of machine may be defined as the branch of engineering science which deals with the study of relative motion between various parts of the machine and forces which act on them. So mechanics of machines is basically about the relative motions, study of relative motions between various parts of the machine and the forces acting on them. And this knowledge is very important and essential for an engineer to design various parts of a machine and to assemble machine altogether, assemble these parts altogether. And the primary purpose of studying engineering mechanics is to develop the capacity to predict the effects of forces and motion while carrying out the creative design functions of energy engineering. So when you are designing something, you should know, because at the design level, you cannot create it immediately and see how it is functioning. So you should be able to predict something when you are designing. So to predict something, you should know how these elements when together works. The forces that you are inserting on a machine, how it works, or how it gives results out from the machine once it is assembled and make it to practice. And this require more than a physical and mathematical principles of mechanics. It needs some extra knowledge. We'll see what that extra knowledge is. It also requires, other than the mechanics or mathematics that lie behind these machines, it needs to visualize the physical configuration in terms of real materials. And there are, when it comes to machines and elements, there are constraints, because in machines you have different elements, and these elements are free to move in various directions. But in some cases, in every case, there are limitations. Axle or a wheel or a brake, these can move in certain restricted spaces, or their movements are restricted with a purpose. And these practical limitations should be known, and how it is governed inside a machine, and as well as the structural strengths of these parts should be known. And to make the job or task little easier, we divided here into 4 different areas of theory of machines. So the first one is kinematics. It is the branch of theory of machines which deals with the relative motion between various parts of the machines. So when you are talking about a machine, there are so many parts, and these parts are moving inside the machine against each other, and how these relative motions are arranged and how they are functioning is according to certain theories. So these theories, learning about these theories comes under kinematics. And then the dynamics. The dynamics is about the moving parts. It is that branch theory of machines which deals with the forces and their effects while acting upon the machine parts in motion. So dynamics is all about the forces acting while machines are moving or parts are moving. And then we have kinetics. It is that the branch of theory of machines which deals with the inertia forces which arise from the combined effect of mass and motion. So to make it clear and easy to understand, we'll take colliding of 2 persons. Suppose you are getting hit by some heavy fellow, tall, heavy fellow, and in a different time you are hit by a thin, lightweight person, and the effect is according to our experience, it is different, because the heavy fellow impact you get from hitting by a heavy fellow is more compared to a lightweight thin person. So the impact, the studying of this motion in with the mass is a different thing. So the study about such moving mass with the different masses is called kinetics. So then there's another section which we are discussing in the theory of machines, that is statics. That is the stationary. Statics comes from the stationary parts. So the study about forces and effects acting on parts that are not moving. So these are the 4 parts. Kinematics, which is about relative motions. The dynamics, which is about moving parts. And then the kinetics, which are about moving mass together, the difference between different masses on motion is called kinetics. And then the study about stationary parts or statics. So after having said that, we'll go to the short history, brief history about mechanics of machines. During early days, that is about 240 CE or about 300 years before the Christ, Chinese developed a certain cart which could be used to cross a desert by moving moving with the cart while going across such place, because the specialty about this cart they developed is there's a figure, as you can see on top. Once it is pointed towards a particular direction, while it is moving, the cart, which any direction it moves, the finger directed originally to that, the direction that it is set at the beginning. So before they start the journey, they could fix it to a certain here. Normally they fix it in the south direction, and while they are crossing the desert, irrespective of their movement or the changing of the directions, the finger pointed towards the south. So that was the idea behind this chariot, south pointing chariot. Chariot, everybody knows. Force. Normally, chariot is, the term came from horse-driven carts, but here it is meant for the cart that it carries this figure. So it was 300 years before the Christ. And then later on, there were some mechanisms, basic mechanisms used during early days. There were 6 simple machines used at the beginning of the early history of this subject. And these machines, simple machines, gave mechanical advantage. That is, as I mentioned, the output force was more compared to the input force. And there was the Greek scientist, the Archimedes, was involved with developing some of these machines. But their knowledge was somewhat limited to statics or stationary objects, and did not include the dynamics or the mechanisms about moving items. So we'll see how these the six simple machines came through the history. And the first one was the wedge. It is used in handheld access. And then there was the inclined plane, which is used to move heavy masses through the elevations. And then the wheel and axle, also having a long history where they used the wheels and axles to move things from place to place. And then lever also was used to lift heavy masses. And then pulley also used to bring heavy things to the surface from the lower elevations, or to move vertically up heavy masses. And then the screw also used to lift or move masses to different elevations. So we'll see how these are pictorially. Here, these are the first one that we discussed, the wedge. Wedge is having this type of shape, and it is used to split here wood or cut some wood during early days. And the mechanism is like this. The downward force is exerted on the wedge, and the force acting on it would split the wood to two. And the force which is exerted on the machine, on the wood through the wedge vertically, is split into two perpendicular forces, which is acting inclined on the acting perpendicular to the inclined surfaces, like you can see it from here. So that is how a wedge is acting and which is used in the history. And then the inclined plane. Inclined plane, you can see here, you could move some heavy masses along an inclined plane better than lifting directly. So that is, this principle is used in the construction of Great Pyramids. You can see here, they are moved the heavy stones along an inclined plane. That inclined plane is encircled along the pyramid. So they were moving in inclined planes up to the top in the pyramid and place these stones one by one. This is used in pyramids. The technique was used for good effect in pyramids. There's the axle, and the wheel is effectively used to bring water to the surface. And then the lever. Lever also used to lift heavy masses, or lift or move heavy masses, the lever is used. At the same time, you could in the ancient history they use lever to bring surface from the rivers to the ground level, or bring the water to the surface. And then the pulley also had a history where they used pulleys to hoist some heavy masses. And here you can see stone wheels also used in the history for the positive use. And then finally the screw is also used to bring water from the lower elevations to a high elevations for the agricultural purposes during the ancient history. So that is about brief history about the mechanics of these old machines. And so with that, we'll go to the next topic, which is to the first area we are going to discuss here is the free body diagram. So to apply the principle of mechanics to analyze forces acting on a body, it is essential to isolate the body in question from all bodies so that a complete and accurate account of all forces acting on this body can be taken. To analyze forces acting on a body, it is essential that we isolate the body in question from all other bodies so that a complete, accurate account of forces acting on this body can be taken. So here the idea is to make the machine simple. If you make it simple, then you can identify the forces acting on the body. So we'll see how it is done. This isolation should exist mentally and should be represented on paper. So when it comes to reality, you won't see a body separately from other elements. But to analyze, we should make it simple by thinking about it and bring it to a paper in a simple form so that we can further analyze it. And the diagram of such an isolated body with the representation of external forces acting on it is called a free body diagram. So such a diagram is called a free body diagram. Body depicting the external forces acting on it is called a free body diagram. Here I gave you an example. So here, as you can see, a man is working on a lawn mower. So he cut grass using the machine. This is a machine that used to cut grass. And you can see here there are four forces acting on it. One is the gravity, and here you can see a free body diagram for this scenario. From one side you can see the friction and then the normal force, and then here you can see the applied force and of course the gravity here. So we'll have one simple example here to understand the concept of free body diagram. So we'll consider a book which is rest on a table. And when you are thinking about the book resting on a table, you can draw forces acting on that stationary body or book, like given here. There you have the weight of the book, which is gravitational force, because any mass which is having a mass, any body which is having a mass is pulled towards the center of the globe through a gravitational force. And that gravitational force is acting on a body which is having a mass. And then there's the force acting it perpendicular and opposing force acting as the normal force. So this is the free body diagram to this scenario or this condition where you have a stationary mass like a book lying on a table. And now I wanted to discuss some of the situations so that you can learn more about free body diagrams by doing some exercises. So we'll discuss some of this later on. First, I'll give you the opportunity to work of your own to understand the free body diagrams in each of these situations. The first one is the gymnast holding onto a bar. He's suspending motionless in the midair. The bar is supported by two ropes and attached to the ceiling. So you are asked to draw a diagram of the gymnastic and to first draw a free body diagram to this first case. So you draw a body first, a block, and see how many forces are acting on this situation. So try yourself first. I'll give you some minutes to work of your own. Then we'll discuss this particular case, how the free body diagram could be drawn to this situation. So it is about a gymnast holding to a bar which is supported by two ropes hanging on a ceiling or some higher poles. Hanging from a pole which in turn hangs with the two ropes from two sides, two ends. So it would look like this. So the self-weight is, if you draw the body, self-weight is there, which is exerting a gravitational force, and the bar and the gymnast is having that weight, and that weight create the gravitational force, and two ropes which is connected to the pole is giving tensional forces from two sides. That is the free body diagram of this situation. I'll repeat it again. The body in this case is the pole and the gymnast together. So this complete body, when you imagine, it gets three forces. One is the gravitational force, which comes due to the mass of the pole and the gymnast. And then since the pole is connected to the outside world through two ropes, that ropes give a tensional force. So these two tensional forces are depicted here from these sides. So that is the simple answer to this scenario, this situation. Then we'll go to the next. An egg is free falling from a nest in a tree. So in this, the third case, egg is falling from a tree. The nest, everybody knows a nest. Nest is where birds lay their eggs. And from such a nest, a egg is falling to the ground. So try to figure out this situation, the egg and the forces acting on it while it is moving downwards. So in this case, in a previous case, it is a stationary one, but this is a moving one. So try to figure it out. What is the force in this situation? Mention the force acting on the falling egg. Yeah, gravity, exactly. So the gravity, in which direction it is going? Oh yeah, downward, exactly. So very good. And so we'll see, I'll show the others the answer, how it like. Yeah, you can see you have the body here and gravitational forces acting on it, and it pulls the egg downward to the ground. So we'll go to the next situation. A flying squirrel is gliding from a tree to the ground at constant velocity. Consider air resistance. Diagram the force acting on the squirrel. So you might have noticed or observed this type of squirrels where they have the certain legs and the limbs are connected with a certain muscle so that they can glide from high elevation to low elevation. There are special type of squirrels which can fly. So here we are talking about such a squirrel which is coming down from a higher tree to the ground at a constant velocity. So it is coming at a constant velocity. Try to figure it out. We'll discuss it. Alind lekam ge ne. Uta pulan da kiyanda uttare.
Down force gravitation.
Apa Chutta kayin kata kan?
Down force gravitation.
Oh, then gravity එක තියෙනවනේ. දැන් gravity එකෙන් තමයි ලේනවා පල්ලෙහාට පොළොට එන්නේ නේද? එතකොට දැන් අපි කතා කරානේ මේ වාතේ friction එක කියන්නේ මේ මොකද්ද ඝර්ෂණයක් තියෙනවා කියලා වාතනෙන්. එතකොට දැන් එයාගේ වේගය වැඩි වෙනකොට දැන් ඉස්සෙල්ලා අවස්ථාවේදී අපි කිව්වේ පිටරයක් පොළොට පාත් වෙනකොට මේක එන්න එන්න වේගයෙන් වැඩි වෙනවා නේ. මොකද මේක ෆෝස් එකයි තියෙන්නේ. ෆෝස් එකට ඔපෝස් ෆෝස් එකක් නැති හින්දා එන්න වැඩි වෙලා මේක එන්නේ ඇක්සලරේෂන් එකකින් පල්ලහැට. ටර්න් එකකින් එන්නේ. දැන් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපිට මේකට විරුද්ධව මේ වාත ප්‍රතිරෝධය තියෙනවා. එතකොට වාත ප්‍රතිරෝධයත් එක්ක තමයි අර අපි මෙතනදී මේ ඒකාකාරී ප්‍රවේගයෙන් එන්නේ. ටර්නේ නැතුව. දැන් මෙතනදී අපි කියනවානේ මේක එන්නේ ඒකාකාරී ප්‍රවේගයෙන් කියලා. ඒකාකාරී ප්‍රවේගයෙන් එන්න නම් අර ග්‍රැවිටේෂනල් ෆෝස් ඒ කියන්නේ ගුරුත්වාකර්ෂණ බලයට විරුද්ධ බලයක් තියෙන්න ඕන නේද? එහෙම නේද? අහනවද?
ඔව්.
එතකොට දැන් ඕක අපි ඩයග්‍රෑම් එකකින් අන්දොත් කොහොමද? එතකොට දැන් අපිට දැන් මෙතන තියෙනවා මේ බල දෙකක් නේද?
ඔව්.
එක බලයක් තියෙන්නේ ගුරුත්වාකර්ෂණ බලය. ඉස්සරහට මේක ඇදගෙන යන්නේ පොළොව පැත්තට ඇදගෙන යන්නේ, ලේනම් පොළොව පැත්තට ඇදගෙන යන්නේ ගුරුත්වාකර්ෂණ බලය. ඒක මොකද දැන් ඉන්නෙන් තුර්ණයකින් ගියොත් වෙන්නේ මොකද අවසානයේදී පොළොවට වදින වෙලාව වෙනකොට ලොකු වේගකින් තමයි වදින්නේ. එතකොට එතන ලොකු මේ ගස්ඨනයක් ඇති වෙනවනේ. ඒක අඩු කරගන්න තමයි අර ගුරුත්වාකර්ෂණයට විරුද්ධව යන වාත ප්‍රතිරෝධයෙන් ඒක වැඩි කරන්නේ. ඒතෝ වාත ප්‍රතිරෝධයත් මේක මේ සමාන වේගය තියාගන්න අරක වැඩි වෙන්න ඒකත් වැඩි වෙනවා. ප්‍රතිරෝධය වැඩි වෙලා තමයි ඒක බැලන්ස් වෙන්නේ. එහෙමනේ නේද?
ඔව්.
එතකොට ෆෝසස් දෙකක් වෙනවා. අපි බලමු කොහොමද කියලා ඒක මෙයා වෙන්නේ. හොඳයි පුතා. බලමුකෝ. මේ තියෙන මෙන්න මේ වගේ එකක්. මේ තියෙන මෙන්න මේ වගේ සත්‍යයක් තමයි උතන ඇති වෙන්නේ. එක පැත්තකින් ග්‍රැවිටේෂනල් ෆෝස් එක තියෙනවා. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් ඊට විරුද්ධ වෙන වාත ප්‍රතිරෝධය. ඔය දෙක බැලන්ස් වෙලා තමයි අර ඒකාකාරී ප්‍රවේගය පවත්වගෙන යන්නේ. පැහැදිලිද? A rightward force is applied to a book in order to move it across a disk with rightward acceleration. And consider frictional force but neglect air resistance. දැන් අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි පොතක් මේසයක් දිගේ ඇදගෙන යනවා දකුණු පැත්තට බලයක් දීලා එතකොට මේ බලය දිගටම යෙදීම නිසා මේක තොරණයකින් දකුණු පැත්තට ඇදීගෙන යනවා. එතකොට දැන් මේකට ප්‍රතිවිරුද්ධ වෙනවා ඝර්ෂණයක්. ඒක මේ පැහැදිලි කරලා ෆ්‍රී බොඩි ඩයග්‍රෑම් එක අඳින්න පුළුවන්ද? බලන්න උත්සාහ කරලා. forces acting දැන් මෙතන අපේ බොඩි එක කියලා කියන්නේ පොත. ඒකට බලන්න පොතට ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන බල මොනවද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. යන්නේ තොරණයකින්. තමෝදා නේද?
Yes, sir.
ඔතකොට පුළුවන් ද ආන්සර් දෙන්න උත්තරේ?
Gravitation force is downwards.
Oh,
Normal
gravitational-
force is
Oh yes,
upwards.
yes,
Normal force is upwards.
yes.
Applied force is right side.
Yeah.
Friction force is left side.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So we'll see, as Shamoda mentioned, how it looks like. Here in the right side, you can see the applied force, and opposing, there's a friction onto the left side, and the mass of the body or book is creating the gravitational force downward, and opposing normal force is acting. So this is the free body diagram according to this situation. And, anybody having questions so far? So we'll go to the next situation and see. So in the previous case, we were talking about the acceleration. So here in the same, in the sixth scenario, we are talking about the same book or same situation, but there's a difference. In the previous case, it was dragged with the acceleration, but in this case, it is dragged in the right direction, rightward direction, through a constant velocity. What is the difference between this and that previous case? So in terms of forces, which in the previous case, what might have happened regarding the forces? Because we had two forces there, exerted force and the friction force. So in this, the previous case, what was the situation? The previous case, the exerted force is greater than the friction force. That is why it was dragging with the acceleration in the rightward direction. But in this case, the friction force and the exerted force is, the difference is constant. But in the previous case, this is not equal. The difference is, in the previous case, the difference between the exerted force and the friction force is increasing because the force is increased over the time. But in this case, the difference between friction force and the exerted force is constant. So a resultant is one force acting, constant one force acting in the rightward direction. But in the previous case, that force was increasing with the time. That is why it was accelerating. So we'll go to the seventh scenario. The college student rests a backpack upon his shoulder. The pack is suspended motionless by one strap from one shoulder. So try to draw the free body diagram to this scenario or this situation. A college student having a backpack in his shoulders. Irrespective of the scenario, whether it is a constant velocity or acceleration, did you see any difference between the free body diagram? Is there any difference between free body diagram? Because we are talking about, in the free body diagram, what we are talking about is acting forces on a body. So we are not talking about the scenario, what exactly happening, whether it is acceleration or a constant velocity. We are not talking, or we are not bothered about it. We are just drawing the free body diagram. So when you are drawing the free body diagram, in the previous two cases, it is the same diagram that you see. When it comes to the action or the magnitude of these forces, make the difference between acceleration and a constant velocity. But when you are talking about the diagram, it is the same diagram. We have four forces. One is the normal force, the gravitational force, and then the frictional force, and then the exerting force. So these are the four forces acting in both cases. So please note that. So when you are talking about, or when you are drawing a free body diagram, there might be same free body diagrams for two different cases, like in previous cases. In mechanical or mechanics of machine sense, these are two different situations. But when it comes to the diagram, it is the same diagram. So how about this, the situation that we just discussed? Maybe one of you can answer. So
Yes,
Dhananjay, can you answer that? Pardon? Number 7. Yes, number 7. No.
Number 7. Downward F gravitation, upward F tension.
we were talking about a boy carrying a bag, heavy bag with the straps. So what is the force downward?
F gravitation.
Pardon?
F gravitation. Downward.
Gravitational force. And then the force upward?
F tension.
The tension. Yes, exactly. Okay, thank you. And so I'll send you more exercises on this, and we'll stop the class here, lecture here, and I'll send some of more exercises on this line before the next week, so that you can try at home and come up with answers, and we'll discuss it in the next class, beginning of the next class. Okay. Thank you very much for joining. So we'll conclude the class today now, and I'll send you in the meantime note as well as some more questions to try at home. Okay, and please try it and come with some answers. We'll discuss, we'll give about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes from the next class to work out some of these answers. Okay, thank you very much.